First, can you smell the gaslighting? The Democrats and their pals in much of the media are going absolutely full pelt with their push to win Kamala Harris the presidency. And they're using every trick in the book, from psychological warfare to Justice Department indictments, to meet their goal. Key to this, of course, is to create a sense that a Harris presidency is inevitable and that those who don't go along with the program will be left behind. So, come on, get with us. I call this program or project Operation Demoralize, and it is designed to make Republicans think it's all over, that the Harris juggernaut, swept along on a wave of joy, is unstoppable, and that there is no point suffering the social stigma of being an out-and-proud Trump supporter, much less bothering to go out and cast a ballot for the man on the day. Of course, it's all based on feelings over fact, style over substance. And you know what? I'm not buying it. To be frank, I don't think the headline polls we are seeing in the papers are quite as strong for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as some would have us think. I suspect the Democrats' internal polling is in fact worse than the public stuff we see on the news. Here's why. One, again, have you noticed how much of the Harris campaign seems to be not about convincing voters to vote for them, but convincing voters that other voters are voting for them, and therefore saying, hey, go along, it's what everybody's doing. This is why there has been so much emphasis on crowd size and full arenas, which, as we will see soon, might not be all they are cracked up to be. It's like they're trying to form a consensus around Kamala Harris, a manufactured consent, if you will, around Harris, who, let's forget, never won a single primary vote and was essentially installed into the candidacy by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the rest, and who is now trying to skate into a job that has a $6 trillion budget and the keys to thousands of nuclear warheads, off the back of one softball CNN interview, one presidential debate, and not a single primary vote cast by an actual voter. But hey, you know what they say, anything to protect our democracy, right? Now, point two, about those crowds. Well, on Thursday, vision emerged of buses that were reportedly used to bring in out-of-state attendees to a Harris rally in New Hampshire, which is a tiny state with just 4 electoral votes that, let's be frank, shouldn't be hard for Harris to easily pick up. Are you maybe starting to get the idea that all of this groundswell of support isn't all it's cracked up to be? This local reporter implied much the same thing.
Well, behind me, hundreds of invited Harris supporters are leaving and boarding shuttle buses. This was a departure for Kamala Harris.
Why are they not campaigning hard in the swing states? This seems, going to New Hampshire, like a bizarre use of resources. Now, finally, and this is the biggie, if you want any further proof that Democrats are nervous about what's coming, well, God help me, they're punching the Russia button again.
The Justice Department is seizing 32 internet domains that the Russian government and the Russian-sponsored actors have used to engage in a covert campaign to interfere and influence the outcome of our country's elections. As alleged in our court filings, President Vladimir Putin's inner circle, including Sergei Kirilnikov, directed Russian public relations companies to promote disinformation and state-sponsored narratives as part of a program to influence the 2024 U.S. presidential election.
Well, that was Attorney General Merrick Garland on Thursday, but here's more from MSNBC, and gosh, they could hardly contain their nostalgic joy over all of this.
Jose, this is being described by our sources as a whole-of-government action designed to target Russian propaganda and disinformation aimed at interfering in the 2024 election. It is said to include sanctions by the Treasury Department, law enforcement action by the Justice Department, and one of the focuses is on RT, formerly known as Russia Today, that network of Russian government-funded English-language websites and television platforms that was flagged all the way back in 2017 by the U.S. intelligence community as a vehicle for Russian disinformation and election interference.
Seriously, if you didn't know RT was straight-up Putin propaganda, well, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot. You don't need the government protecting you from misinformation. You need to go read a book. And unless you think this is really about defending democracy, our democracy, from foreign interference, well, pro-Harris websites were immediately touting this as a win, not for democracy, but the Democrats. Their take? New documents released by the Department of Justice expose how Russia is planning to use Twitter to promote Donald Trump and the Republican Party. This is damning. It should tell you everything you need to know about Trump and the Republicans. Unquote. Are we really doing this again? Sorry. The last time around, the Russia hoax turned out to be a big bust, but it did the job of nobbling Trump's first presidency. And in 2020, remember, the left invoked Russia again, this time saying the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation to stop its contents, which were later acknowledged to be genuine, from derailing Biden's bid to unseat Trump. So what feels like it's going on right now feels very much like the same thing. A coordinated effort to make Russia the issue and Trump the enemy to try and hurt him in the polls in which he is supposedly behind. But again, sorry, like I have a hard time buying the Democrats suddenly being concerned about foreign interference. The Democrats seem to have a lot less of an issue about foreign interference and influence when it comes from, say, China, which has spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to influence U.S. politics. Remember, a Chinese spy known as Fang Fang courted California politicians, and in the case of Representative Eric Swalwell, even had a relationship with him. In New York this week, the former deputy chief of staff of the Democrat governor Kathy Hochul was indicted on a variety of charges related to China and foreign interference. And China also reportedly maintains secret police stations in several U.S. states, including Tim Walz's Minnesota. So again, I'm sorry, Democrats, spare me the Russia routine, okay? I'm all against foreign interference and influence wherever it comes from. But when it comes to the Democrats and the left, who took their COVID marching orders and increasingly are taking their views on free speech from Beijing, and their views on foreign policy and interfaith relations and Israel from Tehran and Qatar, I'm a little skeptical when they suddenly get religion when it comes to Russia. And I'm also more than a little skeptical that President Kamala Harris is inevitable either.